Dear learners and listeners, a very warm welcome to all of you for this session. Today we will be discussing Protection of Human Rights Act and human trafficking. We have discussed that Protection of Human Rights Act was passed by the Parliament after the UDHR and after the covenant. So it is very important that we are a party to these international documents and covenants. So we have to have a legislation on human rights in India. So it came in 1993, and still after this legislation on human rights, which talks about that human rights are there when a person comes in the womb, and it is also there after the burial of that person. So how will my body be preserved after my death should also be taken into consideration by the states, and my dignity should be ensured. I have a right to birth, so a lady has a right to conceive and a child has the right to birth. So we have legislations to ensure that the lady is able to give birth to a healthy child and the child is able to take birth. Then also we have violations in the name of human trafficking, where people are sold and purchased. So do you think that the people who have been trafficked are somebody who is not having their human rights? Or they have denounced or they have given away their human rights? Or they are not the citizens of India, so the human rights are not applicable on them? We have seen that the human rights are universal. Human rights cannot be given to anybody. So even if I want to give my rights to you, I cannot give, because this is with me as I am a human being. So I cannot say that I don't want these rights, the state should take away these rights, or my family members should take away these rights. Similarly, nobody can take these rights, nobody can give these rights. So it is very important then that when we see the human rights, it has to be there in these lines. So we will be discussing this legislation and will understand how human trafficking is affecting the rights of a human being. If a person is purchased by somebody, if the dignity rights are not maintained by the state, not ensured by the state, then it is a violation of this act and the international covenants and the UDHR. The Protection of Human Rights Act, an act to provide for the constitution of a National Human Rights Commission. We have seen that commissions are formed, and under this act, the National Human Rights Commission, the state human rights commissions, human rights courts are being formed for better protection of human rights and for the matters connected to human rights or incidental to. So the cases of human trafficking are always against this statute. 2 talks about the definitions. I have just taken very few definitions which will explain you the linkage between human trafficking and human rights. 2D talks about human rights definition. Human rights means the rights relating to life, liberty, equality and dignity of the individual guaranteed by the Constitution or embodied in the international covenants and enforceable by the courts in India. So as we just said, that if your rights are violated, it is a violation of the international covenants, the Constitution of India, the various statutes which protect these human rights. 2E talks about Human Rights Code. Human Rights Code mean the Human Rights Code specified under Section 30. Then chapter 2 deals about Human Rights Commission. It talks about the composition, it talks about the powers and functions. So if I talk about section 3.1, the central government shall constitute a body to be known as the National Human Rights Commission to exercise the powers conferred upon and to perform the functions assigned to it under this act. So the central government constitutes a body, and the body is known as National Human Rights Commission. Section 3.2 talks about that the commission shall consist of a chairperson who has been a Chief Justice of India or a judge of the Supreme Court. So this is the level of people who are, in this commission. A chairperson who has been the Chief Justice of India. So he is a person who was heading the highest post of judiciary in India, or a judge of the Supreme Court. Any member who or has been a judge of the Supreme Court, one member who is or have been the Chief Justice of a High Court. So you are appointing judges of high structure, either the ex-Chief Justice of India or a judge of the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice of a High Court, judge of a Supreme Court or the Chief Justice of a High Court will be able to understand the gravity of the offenses related to your human rights and will be able to ensure that human rights, if violated, the person gets justice. 3 members, out of which at least 1 shall be a woman, to be appointed from amongst persons having knowledge of or practical experience in matters related to human rights. So, when I was talking about the composition, I want to focus on the aspect that this is so important. This commission has been empowered by so good people. Still, if we say that, as this commission has only recommendatory nature, so, the recommendations are not binding, makes no sense, because we are having people of highest positions who know the violations. They have handled so many cases at different forums. A woman is also there to take care of the offenses related to women. So you have to be sensitive, you have to understand that the person whose human rights have been violated can always be protected by this commission, as we have very good people working in this commission. The chairperson of the National Commission for Backward Classes, the National Commission for Minorities, the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights, the National Commission for Scheduled Castes, the National Commission for Scheduled Tribes, and the National Commission for Women and the Chief Commissioner for Persons with Disability shall be deemed to be member of the Commission for this discharge of functions specified in clauses B to J of section 12. So this is very important that we have all over representations of all the commissions. So, by seeing this, one has to understand that if all these people, all these chairpersons are a member of this commission, then how can we say that the commission will not work practically well for the protection of human rights of the citizens of India? Section 3.4 talks about there shall be a Secretary General who shall be the Chief Executive Officer of the Commission and shall, subject to control of the chairperson, exercise all administrative and financial powers except judicial functions and the powers to make regulation under section 40B. Section 3.5 says that the headquarters shall be in Delhi. With the previous approval of the central government, establish offices at other places in India. So the commission has a headquarters in Delhi, and by the approval of the central government, it has offices at other places in India also. Section 4 talks about the appointment of the chairperson and other members, and we have seen that the chairperson and the members shall be appointed by the president by warrant under his hand and seal. So this also makes it very clear that if people are appointed by the President of India, then we have to understand the importance of such commissions. Section 6 talks about the term of the office of the chairperson and members. A chairperson or a member, shall hold the term for 3 years from the date on which he enters upon his office or until he attains the age of 70 years, whichever is earlier, and shall be eligible for reappointment. A person appointed as a member shall hold office for 3 years from the date on which he enters upon his office and shall be eligible for reappointment. And we have only one thing, that if he is of the age of 70 years, then till 70 years he can work as a member of the commission. On ceasing to hold office, a chairperson or a member shall be ineligible for further employment under the government of India or under the government of any state. A very important provision, because when you have such a position of importance, then if you have the condition or the future of being reappointed on some other post or position under the government of India, then you can give biased opinions, but a judge will never give any biased opinion. And just to check on this is a provision that they can never be reappointed. They are ineligible for any governmental positions, so that they do not make the government, or they can recommend the government, and with force they can have their say. Section 10 talks about procedure to be regulated by the commission. The commission shall meet at such time and place as the chairperson may think fit. Subject to the provisions of this Act and the rules made thereunder, the commission shall have the power to lay down by regulations its own procedure. All orders and decisions of the commission shall be authenticated by the Secretary General or any other officer of the commission duly authorized by the chairperson in this behalf. This gives you a power, that you can have a court at the railway station. You can have a court at the bus stand, and we have seen dynamic judges giving judgments at different places. So, you cannot just have physical boundaries, where you have a commission. The commission will only work from those offices or from those locations. A proactive judge can meet anywhere, anytime, with information to the members. So this is the dynamics of this law. This is the benefit of this law, that if human rights are violated in any part of the country, the State Commission and the National Commission can have its sitting anywhere. Chapter 3 talks about the functions and powers of the Commission, and section 12 deals with it. This is very important, functions of the Commission, because people have a mindset that the commissions are not working properly, or the commissions are only of recommendatory nature, so what impact they will have on the government. The recommendations do not have a binding value, but a welfare state has to take into consideration the recommendations of the commissions. The commission shall perform all or any of the following functions: inquire suo motu or on a petition presented to it by a victim or any person on his behalf, or on a direction or order of any court into complaint of violation of human rights or abatement thereof. So if there is a violation of human rights or abatement to it, then the commission can take a suo motu inquiry, or if a petition is presented by the victim, negligence in the prevention of such violation by a public servant. So the police officers are duty bound, the public officers, the administrative officers are duty bound, to do certain things. And if they are not able to do that thing, and because of their negligence, they are not able to prevent human rights violation, then you can file a case under the National Human Rights Commission. Intervene in any proceeding involving any allegation of violation of human rights pending before a court with the approval of such court. A very important point, that NHRC can also intervene if there is a violation of human rights. Then with the approval of the court, they can definitely intervene. Visit, notwithstanding anything contained in any other law for the time being enforced, any jail or other institutions under the control of the state government where persons are detained or lodged for the purpose of treatment, reformation or protection, for the study of the living condition of the inmates thereof, and make recommendations thereon to the government. They have given so many reports, They can visit the jails, they can visit any other institutions. So all the juvenile justice institutions, all the institutions for the senior citizens, for the disabled, for vulnerable people can be visited by NHRC and the state human rights commissions, and they can see the living conditions of the jail inmates, and they can give a report how to make the law implemented in such a way that rehabilitation and reintegration of these people happen. So any person who has been convicted or any person who is under trial should not suffer any violations, and if his human rights are protected, if his dignity is ensured inside these institutions, then he will be able to reform and will contribute in the society. Review the safeguards provided by or under the Constitution or any law for the time being enforced for the protection of human rights, and recommend measures for their effective implementation. So, the Constitution of India talks about the fundamental rights, the directive principles of state policy, the fundamental duties chapter, and various other articles related to center state powers, relationship, the functioning, the role of parliament, and so many things are there under the Constitution of India. So it can review and provide safeguards to any of the provisions. Review the factors including acts of terrorism that inhibit the enjoyment of human rights and recommend appropriate remedial measures. So they can also review the factors and remove the vulnerability. Why a person commits crime is a serious study. So all the criminologists have given different, theories of why a person commits crime. How to reform a person has also a lot of theories. The victim-centric approach, the compensatory approach, and the witness protection approach. So if you are able to provide the infrastructure and remove the vulnerability, then people will be happy and acts of terrorism will not be there, or any kind of human trafficking will not be there in that area. So they also give recommendations. Study, treaties and other international instruments of human rights and make recommendations for their effective implementation, undertake and promote research in the field of human rights, spread human rights literacy among various sections of society, and promote awareness of the safeguard available for the protection of these rights through publication, media, seminars, and other available means. So the list is, exhaustive. They have to provide literacy about human rights, about the constitutional rights, and how will they provide awareness amongst the masses. Best platform can be school education, college education, university education, then small clubs in the societies, in the buildings, in the offices, to create human rights awareness, encourage the efforts of non-governmental organizations and institutions working in the field of human rights, such other function as it may consider necessary for promotion of human rights. So this is very important, that with the changing dimension, with the changing time, because time is never, time does not stay at one place. So with the change of time, you can have different kind of roles of these commissions. Section 13 talks about powers relating to inquiry. The commission shall, while inquiring into any complaint under this act, have all the powers of a civil court trying a suit under the Code of Civil Procedure 1908, and in particular in respect of the following matters, namely summoning and enforcing the attendance of witnesses and examining them on oath. So they have the right to summon, they have the right to ask for attendance of witness and examine them on oath, discovery and production of any document, receiving evidence on affidavits, requisitioning any public record or copy thereof from any court or office. Very important point, they can ask for any document. Issuing commissions for the examination of witness or documents, any other matter which may be prescribed. The commission shall have power to require any person subject to any privilege which may be claimed by that person under any law for the time being enforced to furnish information on such points or matters as in the opinion of the commission may be useful for or relevant to the subject matter of the inquiry, and any person so required shall be deemed to be legally bound to furnish such information within the meaning of 176 and 177 of IPC. So very important, you cannot say that it is just a recommendatory body. No, it has a lot of powers. It can work as a civil court. The commission or any other officer not below the rank of gazetted officer, specially authorized in this behalf by the commission, may enter any building or place where the commission has reason to believe that any document relating to subject matter of the inquiry may be found, and may seize any such document or take extract or copies thereof, subject to the provisions of section 100 of CRPC as far as it may be applicable. So you have got the power that you can enter into an organization and get the details. You can get the documents, you can get the papers, you can get certified copies, you can get extract. So you have lot of powers under the act. The commission shall be deemed to be a civil court, and when any offence as is described in the 175, 178, 179, 180 or section 228 of the IPC is committed in view of the presence of the commission may, after recording the fact constituting the offence and the statement of the accused as provided in CRPC, forward the case to a magistrate having jurisdiction to try the same, and the magistrate to whom any such case is forwarded shall proceed to hear the complaint against the accused as if the case has been forwarded to him under section 346 of CRPC. A very important provision, So we have seen that, they can also forward the cases. So they are very important people. The commission has lot of roles and responsibility, and it can act to prevent and protect the human rights of the citizens of India. Every proceeding before the Commission shall be deemed to be a judicial proceeding within the meaning of Section 193 and 228. And where the Commission considers it necessary or expedient to do so, it may by order transfer any complaint filed or pending before it to the State Commission of the state from which the complaint arises for disposal in accordance with the provisions of this Act. So, if a commission thinks, National Human Rights Commission thinks that this complaint has come from the state and the disposal can happen from the state itself in an effective way, then it can also, transfer that complaint to expedite, to ensure that people get justice, provided that no such complaint shall be transferred unless the same is one respecting which the State Commission has jurisdiction to entertain the same. Every complaint transferred under subsection 6 shall be dealt with and disposed by the State Commission as if, initially it was filed before them only. Then section 14 talks about investigation, a very important provision. The Commission may, for the purpose of conducting any investigation pertaining to the inquiry, utilize the services of any officer or investigating agency of the central government or the state government with the concurrence of central government or state government as the case may be. For the purpose of investigating into any matter pertaining to inquiry, any officer or agency whose services are utilized under subsection 1 may, subject to the direction and control of the Commission, summon and enforce the attendance of any person and examine him. So, the Commission has been given this power of investigation, and the officer can summon and ask for your attendance to examine that person, require the discovery and production of any document, requisition any public record or copy thereof from any office. The provision of section 15 shall apply in relation to any statement made by a person before any officer or agency whose services are utilized under subsection 1 as they apply in relation to any statement made by a person in the course of giving evidence before the Commission. The officer or agency whose services are utilized under subsection 1 shall investigate into any matter pertaining to the inquiry and submit a report thereon to the Commission within such period as may be specified by the Commission in this behalf. Sometimes, you need technical mind. Sometimes you need some scientific help or the help of doctors, the help of cyber experts, the help of very technical people. So you can hire them, you can use the services of these people, and they will be giving you the report. The Commission shall satisfy itself about the correctness of the facts stated and the conclusion, if any, arrived as the report submitted to it under subsection 4, and for this purpose the Commission may make such inquiry, including the examination of the person or persons who conducted or assisted in the investigation as it thinks fit. So it is not that the Commission, has given the power to investigate and the people who are investigating give their reports and the Commission just says okay. The Commission can check its correctness, its authenticity. The Commission can inquire these people and ensure that the report is perfect. Statement made by a person to the Commission. No statement made by a person in the course of giving evidence before the Commission shall subject him or to be used against him in any civil or criminal proceeding, except a prosecution for giving false evidence by such statement, provided that the statement is made in reply to the question which he is required by the Commission to answer or is relevant to the subject matter of the inquiry. Inquiry into complaints, chapter 4 talks about the procedure. We will also discuss this procedure when we deal with, the complaint mechanism in the next session. So the Commission, while inquiring into the complaints of violation of human rights, may call for information or report from the central government or any state government or any authority or organization subordinate thereto within such time as may be specified by it, provided if the information or report is not received within the time stipulated by the Commission, it may proceed to inquire into the complaint on its own. So, the inquiry has to be done of the complaint. So, if they just ask the central government, the state government or any other authority under the state or central government to provide that information, then that organization, that government should provide the information to the Commission. If on receipt of the information or report, the Commission is satisfied either that no further inquiry is required or that the required action has been initiated or taken by the concerned government or authority, it may not proceed with the complaint and inform the complainant accordingly. So, after the inquiry, if they feel that okay, the government has taken initiative and the issue has been resolved, then they will just inform the complainant that no further action is required without prejudice to anything contained in clause 1. If it considers necessary, having regard to the nature of complaint, initiate an inquiry. Steps during and after inquiry, section 18. The Commission may take any of the following steps during or upon the completion of an inquiry held under this Act. Where the inquiry discloses the commission of violation of human rights or negligence in the prevention of violation of human rights or abetment thereof by the public servant, it may recommend to the concerned government or authority. In cases of human trafficking, this is attracted to make payment of compensation or damages to the complainant or to the victim or the members of his family as the Commission may consider necessary, to initiate proceedings for prosecution or such other suitable actions as the Commission may deem fit against the concerned person or persons, to take such further action as it may deem fit, approach the Supreme Court or High Court or the concerned 6 can, issue writs. So, you can directly just go to the Supreme Court or High Court if your fundamental rights are violated, and if there is a case of fundamental rights violation, then even the Commission can approach the Supreme Court and High Court and they can issue writs. Recommend to the concerned government or authority at any stage of the inquiry for the grant of such immediate interim relief for the victim or the members of his family as the Commission may consider necessary. Subject to the provisions of this clause, provide a copy of inquiry report to the petitioner or his representative. The Commission shall send a copy of its inquiry report together with its recommendation. So, inquiry report along with the recommendation to the concerned government or authority, and the concerned government or authority within a period of 1 month or such further time as the Commission may allow, forwards its comment on the report, including the action taken or proposed to be taken thereon to the Commission. A very important provision which says that the commissions have been entrusted with so much of powers. The Commission shall publish its inquiry report together with the comments of the concerned government or authority, if any, and the action taken or proposed to be taken by the concerned government or authority on the recommendations of the Commission. So, a welfare state has to ensure that the report, and the recommendations of the NHRC, the State Human Rights Commission and different other commissions for the vulnerable people are respected. In the end, I would just like to tell you all that you have to be aware about the different provisions given under the Protection of Human Rights Act. When you do not know about a commission, the Commission's roles and responsibilities and the powers, you cannot say that the Commission is not working. The commissions are working, but we have to be aware about our rights and we have to approach these commissions in case of violation of fundamental rights, and in cases of human trafficking, we should definitely approach these commissions. Thank you all for listening. Have a good day.